When you start working in an environment where people are approaching their work in a way that is completely different to yours, you start absorbing certain things that would be useful to you, even if you are envisioning a practice that's completely different from whatever it is that they're doing.
At least personally, I have enjoyed freelance the most because it has really created this wholesome experience where I can say today I can only do this much because I also prioritize other things which I know would not have happened in a studio. Because one thing is, in a small studio, you don't really get a say, even
Right.
if you're doing everything. But working in a really large corporate, I didn't really feel like I was doing much. Honestly, I was just wondering why I was earning the money I was getting. It felt too minuscule to really be contributing to a bigger anything. But of course, if the corporate that you're getting into has the ecosystem you're looking for, is contributing at an angle that you're looking into, or is giving you some technical studying, which I'm sure this corporate would have given me had I given it the chance, would have probably helped me get promoted or get into another really large studio. I think the idea of working for a big studio is more than the actual experience itself.
I think it's sort of interesting that you bring up this contrast between freelancing versus working for a studio versus working for a large corporation or big firm. And it's also interesting that you say you prefer freelancing, which is actually, I mean, that's completely valid. I mean, wanting to do the type of work that you are aiming at, I mean, the only sensible way to go about arranging your time is to be able to have this level of control and freedom that freelancing would give you. At the same time, though, I feel like there are certain benefits and non-obvious skills that you get from working at a studio or at a large firm. Not so much in terms of technical skills, but rather these almost nebulous, interpersonal or soft skills that you don't really, you wouldn't even realize you were lacking until you see how other people in different types of organizations are going about their work. I remember I've always wanted to kind of do what I'm doing right now, which is, freelancing, but also, and kind of working with clients and things like that, but also having the time to kind of work on my own projects, because that's ultimately what I want to do, and to be able to balance those two things. And after I graduated, I worked for a year as a like a research assistant, a teaching assistant at my college. And then after that, I immediately jumped into freelancing for about 6-7 months or so, thinking that I would do exactly this, what I'm doing right now, and thinking that if I want to work on my own projects, I mean, what better way is there to do that than managing my own time, and that way I can arrange my time the way I want, and I can give myself enough time to work on my own projects. And it was shocking to me how little it worked out that way, simply because you don't fully understand that you don't entirely understand how you function in that environment yourself. You don't, if you were to have all of the time in the world to do whatever you wanted, you don't really understand how it is that you yourself would approach that situation until you're actually in it. And I realized I was a terrible boss to myself. I would fill my plate up really full. I had no time to work on anything other than what I was doing for whatever clients I had at the time. I would keep having new work come in. I wouldn't say no to any, or I wouldn't try to pace myself or pace any of my clients. I wouldn't give myself weekends. I would end up, my sleep cycles had completely reversed, because I would end up working until like the wee hours of the morning, and then sleeping into the afternoon, and then getting up and then starting all over again. And that went on for like about 6-7 months before I realized this is not a sustainable thing to be carrying on like this. And that's the point at which I started an actual job at an actual large organization. Even when I started it at the time, I knew that that's not my like forever after kind of solution. I knew that I will eventually come back to kind of working on my own, because ultimately working at a sort of large corporate firm was not really the end of the road for me. It wasn't really the goal. It wasn't really the life vision or anything, because I always wanted to kind of come back and work on my own things, work on my books, work on my art projects and research and things like that. And go in a more academic space, which is very far from a corporate space. It was a very good job. I mean, I had a lot of kind of creative freedom and leeway and agency over whatever work I was given, and I was very lucky with that particular job, because I mean, most jobs are not like that. You don't get that kind of freedom, and I was fortunate enough to have that. And the thing is, I realized that certain benefits that I got from that job, it was faster to arrive at those through the medium of that job than to try and arrive at it myself organically. So, for example, the way in which they would approach projects, they would think about projects in this very sort of objective, almost cutthroat sense, like, this project is bringing in money, this is where we focus our efforts, this is a huge client, this is where we invest this much effort, this is what we put our time into, this is what we decide to kind of shelve for later, this is something that is not helping us in any way, this is something we cut out. I mean, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but later, like 3 years later, when I left that job, I realized I had started thinking of my own projects in that sense, like my own personal projects, and it was good for me, because it helps to kind of have that sort of distance and that objectivity to be able to say, okay, this project's been sitting on the shelf so long, it needs to be killed. To be able to kind of think about it in that sense, it's not something that necessarily occurs to you on your own, but when you start working in an environment where people are approaching their work in a way that is completely different to yours, you start absorbing certain things that would be useful to you, even if you are envisioning a practice that's completely different from whatever it is that they're doing. Because there is something to be learned from like a cutthroat businessman, or someone who's, say, running an NGO, or someone who's having an academic practice, or someone who's running a studio, because the way that they approach their work, even if it isn't really in alignment with your vision for your career, there is something that they're doing that can be useful for you or make you more efficient at whatever it is that you're doing.